Today, I'm joined by a very accomplished leader. I'm very excited for his insights. Aditya Swami is the CEO and founder of Zippy AI. Aditya is an accomplished engineering leader, logistics expert, and entrepreneurial leader. Aditya, thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started today, could you maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, please?
All right. First of all, thanks for inviting me here. And a quick background about me and the company, right? So I founded Zippy AI a couple of years back. Right prior to that, I was working with Amazon, where I started understanding a lot of the pain points when I was, working with a lot of the customers. Right, repeated issues in terms of a tech platform that can solve their end-to-end needs was as a emerging trend that was coming out. So that's when I decided to, come out and then build this platform, Zippy AI. So in Zippy, what we essentially try to do is provide a full stack coverage, right? And AI agents at the core, right? So I like to call it as a logistic OS with AI at the center of it, right? So essentially, we provide end-to-end support if you are a D2C customer, B2B customer, right? We'd be working domestically or internationally. You get everything under a single platform. Now, at the core, as I mentioned, we have AI. So traditionally, if you take a look at the industry in logistics itself, it is driven in a lot of the aspects manually, right? So, for example, tracking happens manually today, right? If there is pickup issues, delivery issues, that is taken care manually. What documents needs to be submitted when you go internationally, right? And then there are different rules and regulations, country to country as well. So, if you take a look at a typical org, SMB or an enterprise org, SMB org deploys anywhere between 100 to 150 plus people to manage their entire supply chain. Enterprise ranges from say 500 to say 1000 plus as well to basically cater to the similar needs. With Zippy, what we are essentially trying to do is get that down or get the manual intervention down by at least 70%, right? So only when there is a escalation that is required, we basically have a manual intervention. Otherwise, everything is managed end to end by AI agents, right? So just to give a quick use case, for example, if you are a D2C brand, right, and in emerging countries like India, Australia, South Africa, right, you will need to do a lot of things to basically ship a package to a particular customer, right? You need to do a pre-order calling, understand whether the customer has ordered, verify the address, right? Coordinate with the carrier to ensure pickup happens. Right? If there are delays in the system, there's a person sitting, understands the delay, notifies, calls the customers, notifies the delays. If during delivery, if the customer isn't present at the doorstep, then again there are delays that are there, right? And at the end, if the customer accepts, if they have to do a return, then there are again manual intervention that is there, right? So there are different manual touch points in a simple business like D2C. Right now, with ZPI coming into the picture, all of these are handled by your agents, right? An order comes in, agent takes a call, right? Whether it's a high risk order, low risk order, medium risk order. For high risk order, it proactively does a call, understands if the customer has placed that order, right? And does a confirmation using WhatsApp, right? If the person isn't responding after a couple of hours, it automatically takes a decision to place agentic call, get a confirmation of the addresses that are there, works with the carrier partner to ensure that the pickup happens on time. If there is, pickup is not happening, it escalates automatically, right, to the carrier partner, to the seller, right? And then similarly, when the shipment moves forward, if there are any delays in the entire process, again, the agents basically comes into picture, proactively looks at this, right, and then ensures that the delivery happens. In case of returns, it basically does a similar thing, validates, what is the issue, whether it's returnable, non-returnable, all of those pieces, right? So you have an agent that works with you 24 by 7, does a lot of these things proactively instead of a standard dashboard, which is what presently a lot of logistics SaaS platform provides. That enables you to act faster, scale faster, right? So we have worked with a lot of customers who have scaled to different geographies in a matter of 10 days, right? And also scale from say 10,000 shipments to say a lakh shipments over a period of a quarter, right? So that's what essentially we are trying to do, bridge across all of these B2C, B2B, enterprise kind of a customers by reducing the manual intervention.
Thank you for that background. And you touched on it a little bit, but I would love to hear just a little bit more about maybe that pivotal moment or experience that led you to found Zippy AI, and maybe what initial gap did you aim to solve? I know you touched on that a little bit, but would love to maybe just dive in a little bit more to the initial moment that led you to this decision.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, when I was with Amazon, right, and when I was interacting with a lot of these customers, there's this common underlying problem telling, how to scale, when to scale, how fast can we scale, right? And, that's when I started interacting with a lot of these customers, started understanding their pain points, right? And again, one underlying layer was essentially that, I am doing, say, X number of packages right now, right? And I want to scale, but I don't have a single platform that basically does this. I need to go, for domestic, I need to go to a different platform. For international, I need to go to a different platform. A B2B warehousing kind of a thing, a different platform. 3PL goes through a different platform, right? And I don't know whether to trust that platform, right? Because I've been doing business in one particular vertical, right? So, that was one of the common problem. The second problem that we identified is, the manual intervention. There are lots and lots of errors, right? So, not only in India, emerging markets like India, we work across Australia, South Africa, UAE. Almost 80% of logistics still runs on Excels, right? So predict when do you need to ship, right? Right from your last mile milk runs, right? Everything happens presently on Excels because there is no system that basically supports this end to end, right? So when you have manual work, error, it's like error prone, right? You miss a lot of the things. Your cost to deliver actually increases. You cannot find where your burn is, right? So that is one other common problem that we identified, that it's lot manual driven, right? And that's when I started understanding that this is a overarching problem in logistics, right? And when I came out, I basically met a lot of customers who were into similar domain, met across different verticals, across say your retail, FMCG, across B2C, B2B, international, right? Understood what they're doing right now, right? I went into their warehouses, understood, what is their operation model right now, right? And that's when I understood, okay, even when you do a simple shipment, it incurs a lot of manual intervention that is there, right? Even though systems are capable, it's just that people are little reluctant to rely completely on a system because of the lack of ease of which this happens, right? So that was again one of the common problem that I understood. And third is, with the emergence of a lot of this quick commerce, right, like same day delivery or a half a day delivery, which is predominant in a lot of geographies right now, the supply chain is becoming very complex as we talk about, right? So, for example, when we were 10 years before, there was, people were very happy when the shipments get delivered in a week, right? But now it's not in the same way, right? People want it next day, right? You order something, they want it, in 30 minutes, in 1 hour, 2 hours, right? That is where we are headed into. So a lot of brands traditionally that were operating over like a 7 day delivery cycle have been forced to basically come into a quick commerce kind of a delivery, right? 2 days, 3 days, half a day delivery, which is making the supply chain even more complex right now, right? And this is going to be just multifold as we go into say the next couple of years or next 5 years, right? So the systems needs to adapt, right? And it is very difficult for a single system, right, which is built, right? So if you take a look at the present software systems that are there, right, a lot of the competitors, a lot of the players, they give insights. So a lot of this SaaS platform in logistics and transportation are all insights driven. Insights comes actually after the package has been delivered, right? So there is no essentially intelligence that is there right now that tells, okay, hey, the package is going to be delayed, right? Do you want to reroute it to some other carrier partner, right? Or you do want to take some other action so that you meet your timelines that you have committed to a customer, right? So that is not traditionally how logistics operates, right? But as then the next 4 5 years, people are expecting packages to be delivered fast. Customer experience is basically crucial, right? Especially for brands that are emerging right now, it becomes equally important to have that intelligence in the system so that you take measures or you take proactive measures so that the customer experience is there and up to the mark. Right? So that was a third key block that I identified as I started exploring this, right? And that's when Zippy started taking shape. These were the three critical parameters or verticals on which we basically started building Zip.
Yeah, and you touched on it a little bit, but for companies that are trying to retain those clients and building that trust early on, beyond the communication and the dashboards, how did you prioritize that service reliability to build a loyal customer base from the start?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, right? So I think in the industry itself, right, customer experience is at the center, right? So that is one key aspect. Retention becomes a very critical parameter because if you don't give that service quality that the customer demands, then there are like other options, and the people decide to move on to different options, right? So to make the customer sticky, you will need to give a good quality. Now, the way that we basically give that good quality is leveraging tech, right, and AI at the core, right? For example, let's take a very simple use case, right? So, for example, you want to move a package, say from say New York to Connecticut, right? There could be say 10 different players that could help you in doing this, right? But not all of them will perform well when you basically want to leverage them. There might be two players, three players who might be doing very well between that lane. Right now, how do you identify that? You don't have data, right? Because you only have data related to your brand, which is very less, right? However, players like us, where we basically rely heavily on data, right? We have data across, 4 lakh packages, 5 lakh packages that we basically move month over month, right? So we know across this lane, these are the top two players that perform consistently well, right? So basically, that is how we basically provide insights to a particular user, telling, okay, instead of say, I'm just taking names here, but instead of say FedEx, use DHL in this particular lane, right? So that performance is better, right? So at every of these junction, right, wherever there is a customer pivot that basically happens, we basically add in intelligence there so that a customer at any given point can leverage the data and then take appropriate action. Right? So this is one such thing. Similar, I think one of the bigger use cases returns. Can we accept this return order, right? Do we need to refund that order? Do we need to place it into cart? Right, again, there is intelligence that is coming there, right? So at this point, whatever makes the life of the customer very easy, right? So when I mean customer, there are two personas here, right? So for a platform like ours, or a brand like ours, or a logistic platform like ours, sellers or the brands become our customers, right? And for brands, the people who purchase from their website, or Amazon or Walmart's, become their end customer, right? So it's not only the sellers who are our customer. Eventually the customers who buy from our customers are also our customers, right? So we need to ensure that the entire chain is basically satisfied with our service, right? Because both of them touch our service effectively. So that's where we basically give that, a platform wherein, all of these are automated, all of these are data driven, all of these have sufficient insights using which, the brands as well as their customers are able to make appropriate decisions in their day-to-day operations, right? And this has we have seen a lot of good results here, right? A lot of our customers come into the platform, and they are long-term customers of our platform, right? So the attrition rate is very low because they feel that we give appropriate insights using which they can, run their businesses, reduce the return percentages, right? And attempts are better. The pickup to delivery ratio percentage, or the transit time as we call it, is very good, right? So there are a lot of these intrinsic parameters using which we ensure that the customers are in the platform, they enjoy using the platform.
So before we get more into the technology side and kind of that future trends, I'd like to maybe talk about people for a moment because you've touched on it a number of times. Data driven, the insights, the intelligence. Those aren't things that have traditionally been affiliated with logistics and supply chain companies. So, curious from your perspective, maybe for a new startup or a company that's been established for a couple of years looking to continue to scale their business, is that something that you suggest that they are now looking to hire or upskill people who have that ability, or is this part of the function that maybe they look to outsource? And if do you have any insight on how companies that maybe haven't traditionally had to focus on the data analysis and insights can incorporate that into their business?
Yeah, I think I've seen both sides of the spectrum, right? So one is companies who have sufficient skill set within their ecosystem, right? Have basically started leveraging this data, right? Using platform like ours, where we'll basically be able to, structure the data better, right? And then provide insights to them. That ways, they are not lost in that entire pool of data that they have, right? So that is one way. The second way is, companies outsource this because it becomes difficult for them to manage, right? Where this is not your core focus per se, right? Your core focus still lies on logistics or 3PL capabilities, and you want to basically leverage experts out there in the domain who basically can leverage this data, spin up good insights, and then like basically leverage that to your benefit, right? But at the core, right, data is what is critical, right? So data is crucial, and then the way that you structure the data becomes very crucial for you to basically get this insights, right? For example, the way that even we as a tech platform started was, our focus was to basically look at different systems that are there, right? Look at different industries that are there, right? And then we basically start building intelligence over that. Now, even though logistics is a vertical in itself, but there are different industries that are there in the logistics, right? And every industry has its own niche, right? So, for example, the data of retail might not be totally relevant for a FMCG play that is there, right? So you need to look at your own data, your own insights, the data that you collect from different touch points: first mile, middle mile, last mile, 3PLing, right? If you're also doing demand forecasting, supply forecasting, that becomes even a crucial parameters, right? Then you have suppliers on one side, right? So you will also need to collect data from the suppliers, right? So that's where platform like us comes into picture, so where we give entire end-to-end insights from a logistics perspective, right? So you have ops as one part, you have visibility as one part, right? And then you have, say, your KPIs, right, which basically your leadership wants to look at, right, which is more on the revenues, on the burn that you are having, right? So those kind of dashboards actually comes into play. So that's how I would like to structure it.
Well, that's a perfect segue. Now I'd like to focus on, those emerging technologies and how logistics leaders can start to implement and be aware of those changes in the market. So my next question is for a company who's not currently using AI or not using some of these emerging technologies, and somebody came to you and said, Aditya, I want to start. I want to use this technology. How do I start? What's the first thing that I should be focused on?
Yeah, I think the first part that you start off is asking the question, right? What is your key pain point, right? And what do you want to address it, right? Now, there are two steps to reaching the AI, right? So the first is automating it, right? Automating it into a way that you understand where is the pain point, what is that we need to do, and what is the eventual goal using this automation, right? So the advanced type of automation is AI. All right. However, I would recommend everyone to basically start leveraging simple things to automate your day-to-day process. Right. Move from manual. For example, if you are using traditional Excel sheets, understand how you can basically make it more meaningful by leveraging a software system. Right. That's the first step. Then you basically understand, okay, yeah, these are the 3 4 places where probably I think AI will definitely help us, right? It could be a simple AI, it could be a complex AI, right? Again, it depends on the nature of the problem that you're trying to attack, and do you have sufficient data for it to basically be trained on, right? So that becomes the other question that you would need to ask, right? And again, for example, when we started Zippy AI, we relied on manual steps. All right, we understood that these are the manual steps that are there. We basically came up with automation across all of these paths. All right, for example, risk score is one of our automation that we did. Right, second automation was notifications. Right, we need to provide constant notification to the user. Right, so we basically took that, we integrated, so for example, WhatsApp, we integrated Telegram, we integrated different kinds of notifications, and then we ensured that at least there is like the immediate need is basically solved, right? Then the third phase came in, which is AI or agentic, wherein we let the AI agent take intelligent decision, right? Do you want to send a notification now? Do you want to park it? You want to send it, say, after X hours, right? On what does the risk score is being basically prepared, right? There are 3 parameters, 4 parameters. Is this industry specific? This is not industry specific, right? That's when the AI basically comes into picture, right? So it's a step, it's a step process. You basically look at, understand the data, understand the use cases, understand the automation that is there, and then you start building the AI, which is at the at the top layer per se.
And you've talked already about the disruption in the supply chain and how the landscape has already shifted with customers having different expectations now than they had just a few years ago. So, looking at the broader logistics and supply chain landscape, what emerging trends do you see as potentially being the most disruptive?
Yes, I think it's a good question, right? So if you take a look at logistics, as I started off, right? So there are three different verticals I typically like to categorize within the logistic ecosystem, right? So one is across the B2C, B2B, and international, right? So all of these three are being disrupted in their own way, right? So for example, in B2C, as I spoke about earlier, traditionally 7 days delivery are being cut short into say 2 days, same day, next day deliveries. So that is one disruption that is coming up on the operations side, right? Now to cater to this operations, the tech has to evolve. The tech has to be so sophisticated that it basically takes a look, takes the brand, takes the customer requirements into consideration, spin out the partners that can fulfill this needs, right, and ensure that the delivery happens. There's no fun, if the customer rejects the order at the doorstep, right? So it needs to be a clean process where, a direct to consumer business is basically solved effectively end to end, right? So that is one segment on the D2C. The second segment on the D2C is scale, right? So a lot of the brands that are there, which are locally operating, for example, brand operating domestically in the US, now wants to start selling in UK, now wants to start selling in India, right? Now wants to start selling in Japan because the market is booming, right? So these are some of the emerging markets that are coming up, right? Now, how do you scale? Because you're sitting in the US, you don't know about 3PL or warehousing options in different countries. You don't know about domestic shipping, right? How to get, where to get, what are the compliances that are there, what are the taxes that are there. So that is one area where there will be disruptions, right? So a platform, like for example, even we do this, right? How to scale? You basically do a discoverability platform, right, where you can enable them to discover warehousings that are there, right? Enable them to discover sourcing, right? That becomes another important play that is there, right? And how you can scale globally. That is the second trend that is coming up in the D2C side, right? The second pillar, as I spoke about, is B2B, right? So now, traditional injections into, say, Amazon, Walmart, used to take time, right? Now with again quick commerce coming in, fresh coming in, hyper local deliveries coming in, your 20 minutes food deliveries coming in, right? So that again a B2B kind of a scale will also start shifting to a more D2C or B2C kind of a fray in the coming years, right? So even B2B, it will be more in terms of businesses that can deliver you faster, right? Deliver you in a lesser amount of time, right? So I think that shift will eventually happen in the B2B phrase or the space itself, right? And the third one is on the international, right? Again, traditionally, if you see, international shipping has always been a challenge. It is very
Right.
distributed in nature, right? There are not one, two, three, four players. There are n number of players. There are freight forwarders, right? And then there is like a marketplace of all of these pieces, right? Again, there is like a gap wherein there is a glue, right? Or there is a platform that basically does this end to end in terms of international shipping, be it be air, ocean, LCL, FCL, those kind of pieces. So yes, there will be disruption. There are disruptions that are happening, right? And then we'll start seeing more of these in the next 2, 3, 5 years coming.
Well, that's a great segue. As we wrap up here, my final question is: as you look at that next chapter in logistics and how do we incorporate these technologies, what are you most excited about, and how is Zippy AI positioning itself to be able to take advantage of those emerging technologies?
Yes, I think one thing that I'm really excited about is a platform, a multi-agentic platform, right? That basically moves a lot of this load, right? And that's our vision and focus as well, right? To move a lot of these pieces into a multi-agentic platform, wherein you have an a la carte agent, right? So, for example, this month I'm looking at scaling globally. You basically start pulling up those agents, more of an MCP styled agentic platform, right? You basically get an agent, get like two or three different agents that basically solve for a use case. Next month, you want to focus domestic, right? So you basically turn off those agents, turn in different kinds of agents. And then you have some agents at the core that basically help you in day-to-day operations, day-to-day businesses, per se, right? So I think that is one thing that I'm looking forward. And I think there will be a lot of such innovations that are there in the coming time in logistics, right? The second piece is basically a conversational agents that will be there that is required right now because a lot of these operations happen over a telephonic call right now, right? Like, where is my package? When is the package getting delivered? It's running late, right? I want to place a returns, right? All of those are handled by manual people that basically takes the call and then answers them, right? So that will be a eventual shift wherein AI agents will be handling a lot of your calls in a multilingual way, right? So that again becomes a major problem. Again, countries like India and the US, NA, right, where you have like a lot of different languages that are there. Right, so typically you will have deployed like 20, 30 different agents for different languages that are there. That is one innovation that we'll see coming into light in the coming years.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know that our clients are going to get a ton of value out of this conversation. Really appreciate your insights.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us.